Hello guys, welcome back. So today we are going to build this incrementing counter. So this is our 15th project in the series of 50 projects with HTML, CSS and JavaScript, and this is the 15th project, and the project name is incrementing counter. So if I load this page, so if I click on reload, what do you see? This followers, this Twitter followers, YouTube followers and Facebook followers go up. Like this is incrementing the counters. Like if we want to show like this type of functionality in our websites, like widgets or any other things, like so we want to show any followers or either Facebook or YouTube or subscriber details, whatever, like so if we want to show this widget details in our website, so we are going to build this incrementing counter today, and this is the 15th project in our series. Okay, so we will build this in HTML, CSS and JavaScript. So let's get started. So this is the completed project. uh, this is where we are going to build this today. Okay, so here we have the VS Code, and I have created the three files: home.html, script.js and style.css. So if you see in home.html, we will have what? So we just have a font awesome link, because I will use the font icon for this Twitter, YouTube and Facebook. Okay, and for that I have already imported a font awesome, and I've linked the style.css and the JavaScript file. Okay, so we will start from the body section. So let's get started. Let's make a div and let's give a class name. So let give the class name of counter container. Okay, so inside the div, what we want to make? So we want to make a font icon. Okay, font awesome icon. So let's give the first icon. So let's give fab, and let's give if a Twitter. Okay, so this is the icon for the Twitter. Okay, so let's use some other class also. So let's give fa3x. Okay, so let's close this font awesome icon tag. Okay, let's give a div of class counter. Okay, so let's make a div of class counter, and let's give us some data target. So we just want to show some target, right? Okay, so in this, what we want, how many data we want, like how much data we want. If you see in the actual project, we have this 12,000, 5,000 and 7,500, right? So this is our target. So this is what I just want to target it here. Okay, so let's give this 12,000 for Twitter, because we have given the 12,000 target followers for the Twitter. And let's make this data target 12,000. Let's close the div. Okay, and let's just save the file. Now if you see, there is a icon for the Twitter. Okay, now let's make a span. Let's give the title also. So let's make a span, and let's give the text. Yeah, Twitter followers, right? So this is for one, this is only for Twitter, so we have to make it similar for the Facebook as well as the YouTube, right? So let's just copy paste it two times, and let's just change the font awesome icon. So instead of if a Twitter, give if a YouTube. Okay, let's just save it. Now if you see, this YouTube icon is coming up, correct? Now let's, for the YouTube, let's give, instead of 12,000, let's give 5,000, and instead of Twitter followers, let's add some other things, like, right, instead of Twitter we have to add YouTube, right? So instead of YouTube, give some YouTube. Okay, so this is for the YouTube followers. Now we want to give what? We want to give some Facebook followers, right? So we have to change the icon for the Facebook. So if a Facebook. So now if I save it, Let's give some data target for 75. You can give yes, you can give 75, so whatever I've given in the actual project. And let's change to Twitter. Instead of Twitter followers, let's change to Facebook followers. Let's just save that. Now you can see that three icon is there and there is some text, right? So this all we need in our HTML. So we just have created a 3D div. So inside the 3D div we have this icon and we have some text, right? So now let's move to style.css because we have to style it, right? We have to make it to the middle and we have to show in a center, right? So let's start from the CSS. So what we do in the CSS, let's start from the root. Let's give some box sizing. Let's give border box and let's start applying the CSS over the body. Okay, so let's give some background color. So let's give the background color in some purple manner. Okay, let's give some purplish color. So let's give 8E44AD. Okay, now let's give some margin to be 0 in the body. Let's give some height. So let's give the height of 100 VH. Let's make it display flex so that it comes in the middle. Now make it to the line item center and also justify content center. Okay, so that it can show into the middle. Let's give the color for all these icons and the text to be white, and we don't want any overflow, so we can, now it is showing in the middle. Now it is not looking good, so let's apply the CSS for this counter container. Okay, we have the class counter container on each div, so let's start applying the CSS over that. So let's just copy this counter container class name and let's start apply the CSS for that. Okay, so content container, we just want to give some margin. So what margin we want to give? So let's give top and bottom 20 pixel and left and right 30 pixel. Now if I can save it, now it is looking good. Now let's apply the CSS for this icon. So let's just, so we have the icon inside this class, right? So we have the I tag inside this class. So let's apply for this I tag, which is containing the font awesome icon. So let's make it text align center so that it can show into the middle, and let's make this display flex so that we can show it vertically. So in order to, if I just save it, now if you see it is coming into the center, right? Now let's just make it to the center. So if I save it now, so it is align item center, and we have to make the justify content also center, so that, so now it is showing exactly in the middle, right? Now let's apply the CSS for this counter. We have some counter class where we have to show the actual count, right? We have this actual count, right? 12,000, 5,000 and 7,500, right? So we will show this actual count value using the JavaScript dynamically, but as of now we have to style the CSS for that. So let's give the class name. So we have the counter inside the counter container. So let's apply the CSS. So if I just hard code this value as of now, so if I just hard code this value, so let's just give the 12,000, let's give the 5,000. It's hard coded one, but we will make it, dynamical using JavaScript. So as of now let's just give the hard coded one and just look at it how it looks. So let's make the line item center. Okay, now it is showing in the center, right? So now it is coming onto the center. we have to make the font size a little bit bigger. So for that, let's keep the 45 pixel and let's give the margin to be 10 pixel. Okay, let's just save it. Now it is looking good. It is almost equal to our actual project, right? Now, so this all we need in the CSS. Now what we want, like if I make it smaller, if I make this screen smaller, I want to show it vertically, not horizontally. So if the screen size is less than 560 pixel or 480 pixel, we want to show it vertically, not horizontally. So as of now, for this size, we want to show it horizontally. But if the size is going small, if the size is quite small, we want to show it vertically, right? So for that, we will use media query. Okay. So instead of, okay, so we will add this. So let's add the media query. Okay, so let's just add the media and let's give the max width. So let's give the max width of 580 pixel. So if the max width is 580 pixel, so what we want to make this body, we want to change the flex direction to column, right? So if you see, so now it is showing horizontally. Why? Because if you see in the body, I have given display flex, line item center, display center. So by default the display flex showing, so by default the flex direction is horizontal if we use the display flex, right? So but now if the screen size is less than 580 pixel, we want to use the flex direction column. What it will do, it will show all the elements in a vertical position. So if I make this small, if I make this screen less than 580 pixel, now you see this, all this coming it as a column, right? So this is what media query does. Okay, so if the screen size is less than 580 pixel, then we want to show it in a vertical direction. So that is what we have added flex direction column. Otherwise it will go into this body and it will act like a horizontal. Okay, so by default display flex, the direction of display flex is horizontal. Okay, so now let's move to script.js. So this all we need in the CSS. Now we will, what I will do, I will go on and remove this hard coded one because we want to show this value dynamically. So let's just remove it and just save it. Okay, now let's move to script.js and let's start. So what we need, actually we need this counter, right? We need this counter. So let's take this counter. So we have 3 div having class name counter. So let's give the variable name counter. Let's use the document dot get element by class name, right? So instead of class name we can take it using a query selector so that we can iterate over, right? So we will use query selector all and we will use the class name counter. So what it will return, it will return a node array list, right? So it will give me all the 3 divs. So we have 3 div having class counter, right? Now we want to iterate over each counters. So let's just iterate over. So let's use the for each. Okay, so let's use the counter. Now what we want, like I want to iterate over each counter. Now what exactly we want, right? So initially we want to show the value of this followers should be 0, right? So initially it should be 0. So that is why I am just initializing this counter value to be 0. So now if I just save it, so all the followers will be 0 because I am iterating over each div and making this counter value 0. Counter dot inner text making it 0, right? Now I want to create a function. So now I want to update this follows, right? So I want to create a function update counter. So let's make a arrow function. So let's create update counter function. What it will do, it will increase the count value, right? It will increase the count value of this followers, right? So for that, what we want, let's take a target value. So what is our target value? So our target value is this, right? For Twitter we have target value 12,000, for YouTube we have target value 5,000, and for Facebook we have target value of 7,500, right? So we have those target value, so that we want to take. So we, how we can take that? So let's use it, the counter variable counter dot get attribute. Okay, because we have data target attribute, right? So we want to take this attribute, and we want to the value of this attribute, we want to take the value of this attribute. So that is why I'm using counter dot get attribute. Okay, what value we want? Data target value, right? If I can write it correctly. Okay, so this will give me a string. So in order to convert this string into a number, I'm just appending it a plus sign before it. Okay, so this will give me a actual target value which we have written here, right? 12,000, 5,000 and 7,500. Okay, so now we have the target value where we want to like target value means how much followers I want to increase, right? So that is our target value. Now we will take the actual value whatever we have in the contact text, right? So what we want to take the whatever value we have in the counter, right? So this will give the string also. As of now we have 0, so this will give me a string. So in order to convert a string into a number, I'm just appending plus here. Now this increment will decide like how fast you want to increment these followers, right? So if you see in our actual project, if I load this page, if you see this followers is increasing in a certain pace. So this pace we can decide, right? How fast I want to show all these followers, like how fast I want to like increment the followers as soon as my page loads, right? So here we can decide it, right? What our target value is, this target. Now based on our like how fast I want, based on that we can decide, like if I divided this target by 200, so like every millisecond, like I will show you, like this is how, like at every time, like about this much data, like target divided by 200, about this much range I want to increment this followers, right? So let's make an increment, like how fast I want to increment these followers. This is what we have decided. You can give 200, you can give 100, you can give 10, you can give 1000, right? So I will show you at the end. So how many, so like I want to increment this when our C value is less than target. Our target value is 12,000, 5,000 and 7,500, right? We don't want to like increase the followers beyond that, right? So our target is whatever target, we will just check if the C is less than, if the increment value, if the actual value is less than the target value, then only we want to increment, right? So if it is less than the target value, we want to append the inner text, not inner HTML, inner text. Okay, so use counter.inner text. Let's use the backticks, and let's just append this value, right? So we don't want to append the like float value, right? So we just want to convert into a seal value. Okay, so we want to increment, right? So every time we want to increment by this much value, that is where we have decided. So at every time we want to increment this followers by this much amount that we have decided here, target divided by 200, right? So this much, like how fast this I'm going to increase my followers. Okay, so I'm just appending whatever data is coming, increasing, and I'm just showing onto the UI. So in order to show that UI, I'm just appending this using this counter.inner text, right? Now I want to continue this until my C value is less than target. So what I will do, I will use the set timeout. I will use the set timeout and I will call this update counter again and again after every millisecond. So after every, so let's make a after every five millisecond, I want to call this update counter. What it will do, if I just save it now, if now if our actual value is less than target, it's good. We go on and increment that value. If it is greater than or equal to the target value, we don't want to increment, right? We just want to append, we don't want to increase it. So we just want to append this actual target value. Now we just want to call this function date counter. Now if you see that it is increasing, right? So what is happening is like, so we took all this 3 div, right? We took all this 3 div having class name counter, and I'm iterating over each counter. What I'm doing initially, I just make it as 0. Initially our followers will be 0. Now what I am doing, I'm taking the data target. Why I'm taking the data target? Because I just want to show this much amount of followers. So these followers I've decided in the HTML. So I have to take those values, right? So in order to take those values, I am using get attribute data target. This will give me a this value which we have written in the HTML data target value, right? Because we just want to increment the value up to this point, not over that, right? And whatever value we are incrementing, we are just appending it. Okay, so whatever value we have in the counter currently, we are just taking those values, and this is like increment value, like how much value we want to increment at a certain interval of time. So if I go on and make it bigger, so this will like increase the follows in a much faster way, right? If I just save it, you just see, so it is increasing the follows in a much faster way. I No, it is increasing the follows in a much slower way. If I decrease it, so if I make it like uh, 10, now if I just save it, if you see, it immediately completed like whatever the target followers is, because we have the increment is quite bigger. If I go on and decrease it, like make it to 5, we have like bigger increment, right? We have target divided by 5, so we have the bigger increment, so it will immediately complete their target followers. See, immediately, right? So you can like you can adjust your pace, how much pace you want. Okay, how fast you want to show all the followers. So I have given 200, so now it is like looking correctly, it's not so fast and it's not also too slow. So this if statement is used basically if whatever the counter is I'm doing incrementing, whether it's less than the target value or not. If it is less than, then we go on and increment it. How we are incrementing? Whatever value we have and whatever like how much flows we want to increment, that we have added, and we have appended it so that we can show onto the UI. Now we have to call this again and again, right? We have to call this again and again until if my actual values is less than target. So we are calling this update function again so that it will perform all this action again after every 5 milliseconds. If the C is greater than target, we don't want to show the incremented value, right? We just want to show the target value. And for the first time I have to call this function in order to execute this. So that is why I'm calling it here, right? So this is what like you can make such type of widgets or functionality in your websites. So and this is how you can use it. Okay, so that's all for this incrementing counter projects, and this is our 15th projects. And so it's a series of 50 projects. So this series will continue and I will continue upload all these videos. Okay, so if you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and please share this video those who are in it. Thank you for watching.